Well, Louise, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, so when you when you first wrote The Cat Among Us, did you did you originally set out to write a mystery series, or did you think that this book was just a one-off?
At the time, it was a one-off, and I had switched from writing a slightly darker mystery. My first one was called Executor, and that was a tough write because it involved research into things like live organ donation in China and the transplant tourism industry and children orphanages in China.
Mm.
So I wanted to please myself. I wanted to write a happy book that would, and so I thought, what would I like to do and be and live? And I thought I'd like to be young. I'd like to live in a gorgeous house in Hudson on the waterfront, and I'd like to have a lot of cats. So, so I created the book, and it was the editor, Doug Whiteway at Signature Editions, who actually suggested I write a sequel
Oh,
because he
cool.
enjoyed the little world I had created,
Yeah.
and he said that lends itself to a series. So there we go. Now we're on book. I think I misspoke when I said that the book I read from the Cat Look Back was the seventh. I think that was the sixth one. I have submitted the seventh one to Signature already and waiting to hear if it comes out next fall. And I'm writing the eighth one. So they all kind of blur in my mind as to like what exactly happened in that book back in the
Oh,
third book.
yeah, yeah. You have to reread.
I
Yeah.
have to reread each book when I start to write the next one,
Oh,
sort of
wow.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, your main character, Jerry, inherited a house. Is this house based on an actual place?
Yep. It's based on the Greenwood Center for Living History, which is
Oh,
known colloquially around here as the Greenwood House.
okay.
It's on the water in Hudson, right near St. Mary's Church, just after the Oak Ferry landing.
Okay.
And it's where the Greenwood Poets, which is a little group I've belonged to for the last 14 or 15 years, it's where we originally met when we
Oh,
formed the group. And we no longer meet there except for one little tea party in the summer. But we meet at people's homes. But yes, it's a gorgeous house, Greenwood House. I encourage anyone to visit there and have high tea on the back porch in the summertime. It's full of artifacts from the late 1700s on.
okay. Oh, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
Another question. So there are lots of likable and or eccentric people in the fictitious town of Lovering. Are they based on actual people?
Yes, they are. And yes, they are not. No, they are not. So for sure, I can't help it. Like an idiosyncrasy that I've noticed from one person, and it may be someone I observed when I was a child. So,
Yeah.
they're long gone. I might transfer that to a different body type or shape to kind of cloak the identity of the person. Many of my friends, some of whom I grew up with, who are still in the locality of Hudson, Quebec, which is the real Lovering, um, they have a great time reading the book, trying to locate spots, first of all, like geographically, which street is this? Because she's changed the name. And then also, is that our old high school history teacher? Like that kind of thing. So the answer is yes and no, of course.
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah. And so another question. So 20 cats live at Jerry's house, the Maples, and a cat is featured in each book. So what is the role of cats in your book in your books?
Well, I like both cats and dogs as household pets.
Hmm.
I had a lot of cats when I was a little girl, but most of them lived outside because we had a barn in the backyard. Um, I think they're the refuge of the lonely soul. And I think that's what Aunt Maggie, who owned the house before Jerry inherited it, I think that's what she found and why she kind of collected cats. It was a big enough house, she could spread them out around the house, and she had the money to look after them with. So I think they offer a kind of um, detached comfort that's very important to some people. Certainly to me. I love my cats very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how I like to make them, as I said before, witnesses to certain activities that the main human characters won't be witness to, especially at scenes of crimes, because
Mhm.
nobody can interrogate the cat, but the reader gets this insight. And so, and because I also use spirits or ghosts in my books, and because cats have an uncanny or weird reputation of being able to commune with the spirit world, whether one believes in it or not, the cats have that reputation. So I've used that device throughout the books to bring forward spirits that may be inhabiting certain areas. Specifically, Jerry's house seems to be full of them. And the cats are able to see them and participate in various activities that help pull the plot along. So it's all just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you highlight one cat in each book, right? You've done that so far?
Yeah, well, that's a device to engage the reader also. It's fun for me to pull one out of the ensemble and bring them forward. Like a cat that was just a name in a list of cats in the first four books now is all of a sudden the star of the next book, right?
Right,
And to
right,
explore why that cat has now been brought forward. Does it have a link in its past to any of the present or past residents of the house? That kind of thing.
right.
Or is there some characteristic about that cat that's really important to helping solve whatever mystery Jerry's involved in this particular book?
So it looks like we might have many more books to come if you have 20 cats in that house.
Well, sort of, but um, I had a discussion with my publisher, Karen Hoyen, about that this fall, and we were talking about like, so how many of these do we really like want to do? And she said nine would be fun because of the nine
Nine
lives of
lives.
cats, right? So I'm kind of aiming towards nine.
Hmm.
So I'm writing the eighth one now. So presumably next year I
Hmm.
might write the ninth one, and then I'll see as I'm writing it, if I want to pull it all together and make it the last book in the series, or if I want to leave it open ended. So it's not really a question I can answer. The
Right,
goal for now is nine books in the series.
right.
And I should say I've already started another series and I've already submitted that manuscript also to Signature Editions. So we'll see if they want to set out on another voyage with me for another series of
Oh,
books.
do you want to tell?
Mysteries also.
Also, mysteries.
Yep. These are set in Toronto, where I lived for 12, 14 years, something like that.
Hmm.
And I volunteered 1 year at Spadina House in the garden because I was very interested in horticulture at that time in my life, and got to observe the great house from the outside as a servant would have. And so I set the books in the garden
Okay.
in modern time, though not, but there will be flashbacks in historical stuff in there. But from the gardener's point of view, as the great and good come to the big house and carry on with their shenanigans.
Okay. It's great. Great to hear that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.